It's unusual for characters usually. But we'll start off with a square about the size of like a Rubik's Cube is a good size. Post-it notes also a good size. You just want to place that, I would say the middle of your page is good for this. You just want to leave a bit of room. So very nice and light. Just draw something square. It doesn't have to be a perfect square. It can be a little lopsided here. You can have a lot of lines going on. I'm not going to bring out the rulers and protractors to make sure it's all at a right angle. But there you go. You drew Sisu. She's in a box. No, I'm kidding. We're going to add in some guidelines here. So the third of the way from the bottom, you want a little bit more of your box on top than you do at the bottom here. I'm drawing in a horizontal line. I'm going to bring that line a little bit out towards the left side. This is going to be where we start building up her snout. And we're going to create another box down here in this bottom left corner. So I'm just making a smaller box so it kind of looks like our stairs. You know, the long stair and then the short stair that we have. We're going to start building out the top part with her horns. So you want to go to the top right corner of this box. And I'm going to add what looks like this very tilted parentheses. It's almost like you're giving her this mohawk here. But I like to also think of it as like a shark fin, especially when you start to connect it to the front of her head. So think of this as a big shark fin sitting on top of her head. And then we want to sketch out where her mane is. She has this like very fluffy mane. I'm gonna go a little higher than that box. I'm adding in a rainbow. We're gonna give her, if y'all remember what bumpets are, we're gonna give her this little bumpet right here in the back. And then her neck, this mane goes down into her neck, and her neck is gonna go off the screen, off of our page, off towards the right. It looks like a very stretched out candy cane or a very steep slide. I'm gonna go to the middle of my box, right underneath here at the bottom. And then I'll just add in another parentheses here to where her neck starts to flow downward. She starts to look like the Loch Ness Monster a little bit from here. Bless you. I hope we're not allergic to dragons. I mean, she does have a lot of fur on her. She's not like a typical like European style dragon. But this is a little too blocky for our sketch of Sisu. I want to take her forehead here where her snout starts and create this gentle slope from that top corner from where her horn is down to a little bit outwards from her snout here. And then we're going to curve it on up. Create this letter U shape. So it looks like you're sketching out this like curvy letter L or this hockey stick. But this is the first thing I want to keep about my sketch of Sisu, and I want to show you what it's going to look like when you start liking things about your sketch. When you know that's something you want to keep, you want to go back over it and make it really nice and dark. So you should see this backwards letter L on my sketch versus everything else on my drawing right now. Her nose comes to a point. So I'm actually shaving off the bottom corner of my box, cutting into it here with this very stretched out parentheses, almost like a diagonal line. And this is why the dark lines are really important, because you know this is the front of her snout, even though we created the box to start with. And then you can lock in, that is what this is called, is locking in our lines, locking down our shapes. I'm gonna lock in the lower half of this box up to where her neck starts to turn downwards here. And the same thing with the top of her forehead. Should line up right to the middle there. I mean, you can go further than that if you want to. It doesn't really matter all too much, because what we're gonna add here is that fur texture on Sisu. And a lot of times what I love drawing is like you can see eyebrows through hair sometimes, because hair, there's a lot of it, right? So you can sometimes see things that go through it. But we want to add this hair texture here for Sisu. Now there's no right or wrong way to add this texture, but her mane is very fluffy. It has these like a little bit of a wavier texture to it. So think like letter S curves. You can think of like blades of grass. You can give her a different hairstyle though altogether if you don't want to draw her mane looking the way that I'm drawing it here. But we're gonna take her neck and start to give her that texture. And as we're doing this, I'll tell you a little bit more about Raya and the Last Dragon. Now this film, it was a pretty good film, but it had the unfortunate timing of being made when we were all stuck at home playing Animal Crossing. Yeah. And there was a lot of challenges that came along with Raya and the Last Dragon. Because of that, a majority of this was the first movie to ever be made remotely. But I think a lot of the animators really liked that. You get to work from home. But the voice actors had a bit of a challenge when it came to recording because they're used to like fancy recording, like equipment and everything like that. Who voices Sisu? Does anyone know? Yeah, Awkwafina. And Awkwafina, she recorded basically in the middle of her living room. What she did was she set up a tent with like clothing, blankets, some heavy blankets. And she did her recording from her living room. But she did what a lot of people did during that time we're stuck at home, where she adopted a cat. She got this little kitten. And unfortunately, her lines, she did a great job recording, but the director said, hey, we can hear your cat in the background. So she had to re-record her lines. But this movie actually won an Oscar for Best Sound Editing. So they did a really good job keeping Awkwafina's cat out of this movie. I'm still adding texture here. It's okay to keep going with it here. But Awkwafina, for Sisu, they really wanted to make her a very like comedic dragon. They mainly made her like lines more ad-libs. She made them up a lot on the spot. And they base her character kind of off of the genie from Aladdin with Robin Williams. They wanted her to very much channel that vibe. But they had a different idea for Sisu in the beginning, because we almost didn't get Awkwafina as her voice actress, because Sisu was not going to be a girl dragon in the early development of this film. She was going to be a boy dragon, and she was going to be red. And does that sound like a dragon we've already done? Sounds like Mushu, right? So they're like, oh, we need to change it. And they're like, hey, we changed it to a girl now. Well, who's a funny female comedian? Awkwafina, let's go with her. We want to take her horn though. Right now she has one horn. We want to split it up into two. She has two horns on her head. So to split this up into two, I'm gonna go near the front of this big shark fin shape and make a smaller shark fin here in the front. And then about halfway up that parentheses, I'm going to make another shark fin here in the back. It looks like this very fancy backwards letter Y, but I'm carving into that big shape. So now we have the smaller horn here in the front and the bigger horn here in the back. Now for Sisu, her and her siblings have a lot of different talents that she is able to use throughout the film. And but she doesn't think her talent is actually a talent. What is she really good at though? Swimming. She's really good at swimming, yeah. So her horns show that she has these water powers, and you can add any kind of design that you want to her horns. I'm drawing in raindrops, you could draw rainbows. I also like to think of the way that a river flows, you know, how it doesn't stay in a straight line, so you can add like letter S curves here and there, whatever kind of designs you want for her horns. Now, we have the silhouette here for our sketch of Sisu. Are you ready to get to the hardest part of our sketch? All right, I like the determination here. Let's do it. Take a deep breath. And there you go. That's her nose. You can just add a little oval in that point. Now, Sisu is based off of Southeast Asian style dragons, which tends to be a little bit more snake-like. So she has a wider mouth. She has a very, very wide mouth. I'm gonna bring across this diagonal line up towards the middle of my box. I'm gonna curve it upwards here. And the last feature we want to give for Sisu is to wake her up by drawing in her eye. I like to think of her eye as like a pizza slice. So you want to go right over here towards the front, just behind that edge of your box, I like to make a little point. She looks like a very silly dragon like this if you leave it like that, just that little dot. But from that dot, I'm going to stretch up this parentheses about halfway up. You want to leave some room for her eyebrow. And then you're going to make it this check mark. So it looks like this little check mark here. And then you want to connect the top together very lightly because we want to give her some eyeliner. We want to glam her up. She's a very pretty dragon. Actually, at one point during the promotional for this movie, they said she was the Elsa dragon because she has like the same eye shape and like eye style as Elsa does. She has that very like thick eyeliner type of look. But she still looks very spooky right now. She looks like she's seen some things. We want to wake her on up by drawing in her pupil. You can draw any shape, like her horns, you can give it any design that you want. I'm going to have her looking forward in my sketch. I would just not recommend her looking back because from a profile, our brains tend to fill in that the other eye is doing the same thing. So if you think of her looking in two different directions, you'll just get hey hey from Moana. Now, something that she shares with her voice actress is her eyebrow. If you look at Awkwafina, she's got some real nice eyebrows, right? Has anyone seen The Bad Guys from DreamWorks? Yeah. So Awkwafina also plays a character in that movie. She's the little tarantula that's a hacker. And she's got like the really thick eyebrows too. So does Sisu. So I love The Bad Guys. It's actually a really good film. If you haven't seen it, I recommend. But Disney here, advertising Disney. You want to start off with her eyebrow just right above, and we don't want this 90s thin brow. Remember, thicker eyebrow. Put a number 1 in the front, and then bring it all together at the end, bring it to a point. And this is my makeup tip to y'all. If you outline your brows, you have to also fill them in. You can't just leave them outlined. That is not a trend we are going to follow today. But that is everything that you need for your own sketch of Sisu. Anything else is extra credit. You can add in her siblings, you could add Raya in there, you could add the little monkeys that steal things. Maybe you want to add some raindrops around her. But find a good spot somewhere next to your sketch once you're all done and sign your name. All right. Now that we're finishing up our sketches, did you guys have fun? Excellent. I want to see how your dragons turned out. So no matter where you are in your sketch, on the count of 3, turn your boards. All right, 1, 2, 3. Let's see Sisu. Wow, that was a tongue twister. Very nice job. You did a really good job. She looks cute. I love it. Adorable. Very, very nice over here. Look at that mane. So luxurious. Some of these look like she went to like the hair salon. She got a nice like hair treatment. She's got the Pantene Pro V look in most of these. You guys did a great job with her mane. So